Okay, thank you, Fabio. In fact, my purpose here is just to whet your appetite for tomorrow. Try to show you what it's possible to accomplish using PyQt development framework. Sorry? Let's try this one. It's better? Yeah. Great. Okay. So let's start with Qt. Qt is a wonderful piece of software. It's much more than a graphical user interface toolkit, actually. It contains a lot of additional modules, like OpenGL integration, scripting support, networking, database, the popular WebKit browser engine, some multimedia facilities, and of course the very big GUI module that allows you to build graphical user applications. It's great. It's tested a lot, and of course it's a stable piece of software with an excellent documentation, but it exposes a C++ API. So what's wrong about C++? Many things, actually. Everything. For example, it has a compile run workflow, so it's slowing us down when we are developing. It has the dreaded beast of manual memory management, and I'm sure that many of you here developing in C++ has at least once spent lots of time debugging some memory management bug. Okay, not so much testing facilities. And most importantly, it forces you to develop, in my opinion, in the wrong frame of mind. Such like when you try to solve a problem, you spend, at least it happens to me, some more time than it should be needed thinking about how to solve the problem in C++ rather than how to solve the problem itself. And as a step learning curve, I think that you know this comic about how to learn C++ in 21 days, which is like you spend the first 21 days reading books and then you do lots of practice. Like at day 3000, you have to start learning biology, and then you start learning quantum physics to build a flux capacitor, to go back in time to day 21 and then replace your younger self. This is the fastest way to learn yourself C++ in 21 days. I mean, it's a hard language to pick up. So let's compare this with Python, which, as you probably know, has a much more easy learning curve. Actually, I would say that the basics of the language can be learned, like standard library and even some C binding facilities can be learned in like 14 days. Okay, so using Python seems a great idea, and Qt offers us lots of features, so let's see how to mix these two worlds. PyQt actually is a binding that maps every Qt class to a Python class. So it's not a reimplementation of Qt in Python, but it's a thin wrapper over the C++ library. And this makes it easy to keep in sync with Qt, so we get basically for free all the hard work that Nokia puts into the framework. And we also get to use the same very, very good documentation, in my opinion, that comes with Qt. PyQt is developed by a company, is backed by a company which is Riverbank Software. By the way, I think that Phil Thompson, which is the CEO of Riverbank Software, is at the EuroPython. Is Phil here in this room? Okay. Okay, let's say it. Okay, thank you. So, let's see how it's possible to mix Qt's feature set with Python development speed, basically to get profits. Does this make sense at all? I'd like to do a quick reality check based on Develer, which is the company I work for, the Develer experience. We actually have developed a CAD, application designer for fashion design with PyQt, we have used it from day one. We have like 200,000 lines of code base, and this is including tests. So if you do a proportion like 1 line of Python roughly to 10 lines of C or C++, you can get an idea that it's a vast code base. And this program went in production since 2008 and is currently maintained by Developer. And the customer is very happy about how easy it is to implement new feature. So I think that this proves that Python and PyQt wins even the maintainability on the long run. Another example, we rewrote a control panel for a medical hardware appliance. It was a rewrite of an application written in C++, developed in 1 main year. It became unmaintainable, and we rewrote it using PyQt, completed in like 3 months. So the customer was pleased. And if you want, you can talk to me. I have some other examples of how PyQt improves your productivity. Let me also debunk some urban myths. Python is too slow to develop real applications. That's a common urban myth that you hear. It's not entirely false, of course, but in a typical graphical user interface application, using PyQt, the bulk of the program, I mean interaction with showing windows and laying out widgets and so on, that kind of thing is happening inside the C++ library, so it's this kind of tasks are running at C++ speed. Another myth is that you use PyQt, you use PyQt, and you have to distribute your program source to your customer. But this is false as well, because it's possible to package your application using some Python packager, for instance, PyInstaller. And then you can use the resulting binary, a single binary with everything inside your program, PyQt, Qt DLLs, everything. You can bundle it into a nice graphical installer, for instance, with INIO setup, and producing like the setup.x on Windows. So, what are we going to see tomorrow? You come to our training, we will show you, of course, the obligatory Hello World. And this is a quick Hello World in Qt. We will show you how widgets in your graphical user interface can interact one with each other using a nice Qt feature called signal and slots, which is like each object exposes a set of signals that compose basically its API, and a set of slots that are the actions that can be performed on that widget. So using this signal and slot system, you can connect the link an action that has to be performed, the slot, to be performed when this sender emits this signal. This is a nice feature of Qt. Then we will show you how to create nice main windows and dialogues. So, for example, toolbars that are faithful to your system, to your graphic window with system environment, and respect the preferences about whether to show only icons, only text, icon and text, and so on. We're going to show you how to create menu bars with actions in it. And a big part of tomorrow's presentation is going to be about the paint system of Qt. It's a very powerful 2D painting system. In my opinion, it's one of the most powerful, at least limiting ourselves in the 2D bidimensional, that is, domain. And we are going to better detail how the various Qt classes can be used to implement nice things like reusing your very code that you use to draw on screen, for example, to produce printed reports, or accelerating your graphics using OpenGL, this kind of things. And this is going to be a big part of the presentation. So with that knowledge, we are going to try some nice effects, like doing a flickable list. This is a cover follow example, and we are going to implement something like this using QPainter, which is the Qt Paint engine. And of course, we are going to introduce Qt WebKit, which allows you to use the feature of WebKit from your PyQt application. Basically, there is a joke about using Qt WebKit, that you can implement a browser in like 5 lines of code. And this is not quite true, but they are not 5 lines, but there are much less than 100. But not only. Of course, you can use this integration with WebKit also to inspect and extract the content that you read from a web page. You can actually manipulate it. And it's possible, again, to use the Qt printing system to render web page on several devices. So it's not limited to drawing on screen, but for example, you can take screenshot of a website, you can directly send them to your printer, and so on. So this, for example, is a very short function that simply loads a web page and makes a screenshot of it, and makes it available to the Color application, so that you can implement things like that one. So for instance, you get previews for free, for example, of your browsing history. Another big topic we are going to discuss tomorrow is Qt OpenGL, and we are going to show you how your graphical application can use the underlying OpenGL implementation of your system. Actually, Qt doesn't re-implement OpenGL, but instead uses the system implementation. It just offers nice feature, like for example, you can create many OpenGL views, like for example, if you want to develop a 3D manipulator, object browser, or so on. And you can share, for example, textures between all of these views. We are going to show you some quick demo built with Qt. This is an object viewer. And at this point, we will briefly discuss also Qt Declarative, which exposes to your application all the power of Qt Quick. I don't know if you are up to date with the Qt latest development, but just to summarize, Qt Quick is a new stack of classes and functions that is built over the Qt system, but is specifically engineered to develop sleek user interface, for example, like the one of your iPhone or your mobile phone interface, and it offers you a graphical designer to do this. We are going to show you some quick demos. This is a set-top box interface that we developed in Develer as part of a technology preview. And we are going to briefly discuss how you can start from scratch and build such an interface. Okay. One last thing is going to be about internationalization. That is the problem of making your application available under different languages and keeping the same code base. It's actually not an easy task, because the language is not the only problem. you have to keep track of many things, like in some languages the behavior on line breaks is different than line breaks in English or Italian, and some languages has different writing direction. There are some conventions to be respected, and the task here is to implement an international localized application without hampering development, that is without this task getting heavy on you. And finally, we're going to show you how to integrate PyInstaller with PyQt, because as I said in the beginning, we want you to start from scratch and be able to build your graphical user interface application and be able to actually distribute it without depending on asking your customer to install the Python interpreter or something like this. So we will do a small demo, like we are going to take a PyQt application written in Python, and we are going to use PyInstaller to pack everything, so the Python source of the application, the PyQt libraries, and the eventual data files like icons and backgrounds and so on that your application uses in a single executable. And then we are going to build an installer from it to be distributed to the final customer. So that we can avoid the weird situation like asking your customer to apt-get Python and PyQt, and maybe your customer doesn't know what you're talking about. That's it. If you have any questions.
So you can't distribute just Python compiled files on .pyc, or you need sources? You absolutely need to distribute the Python sources of your application, or you can just distribute compiled Python files like .pyc.
Oh yes, yes. It's also possible to distribute your application using the PyC compiled modules, but actually using PyInstaller you go a step further, because you get to pack all of the stuff, all the PyC modules into a single executable, so it's one file that you move around from one computer and the other, and it still works.
On this one, there are also many other options if you want. If you can also pack zip it, or you can ask the installer to unpack it at the beginning of the execution, right?
Yes, many things.
As a preparation for tomorrow, is there something we need to install?
Actually, the only thing that would be better for you to install is just Python and PyQt. So if you use Ubuntu Linux, for example, there is the version that are distributed with Ubuntu are fine, and we are going to need a PyInstaller version, but it's not going to be a problem to download it tomorrow. We'll make, at least we are going to make so.
What is the future of PyQt now that PySide has gone stable?
Okay, nice question. For who doesn't know, PySide is a parallel project to PyQt. That is, it implements a binding to the Qt libraries. It was started like I don't know, like 2 years ago. And it basically implements a wrapper much like PyQt does. The underlying technique is different, but the most visible difference for the user is the license. I think I can't really comment on whether one or the other is better only on license. I can tell you that we are using PyQt. We have been using PyQt for like, at this point, 5 years and something. And it's a very, very stable library. And it's receiving almost daily fixes, improvements by Phil Thompson. And I actually got to rely on it because I think that the sharp angles, if you want, have been rounded at this point. I think that PySide is an interesting project. Of course, we as UI developers, we have to keep an eye on it. But I think that declaring it stable, it doesn't directly mean that it's going to be as stable as PyQt. And I'm saying this just because I have been working with PyQt for like 5 years, and it's really a reliable library. And I know that Phil Thompson has gone a long way making it fast, bug-free, and stable. It took a long time, and PySide is younger from this point of view.
On the official page, it says that Qt Quick is designed for Symbian and MeeGo devices. Since they're both dead, is it still useful?
Oh, I think so, because, for example, one of our customers is working in the STB market, and I mean, Qt Quick probably has born to serve the mobile devices area, but is not limited to that area, in fact. Nokia is spending some efforts to actually bring Qt Quick and make it run on popular STB system-on-chip system that power like Blu-ray players and DVD players and multimedia players and so on. So I think it's an interesting technology nevertheless, because if you want to develop a sleek UI, for example, for an automotive system or your multimedia system in your home, and you want to take advantage of your 3D acceleration built in the system on chip, and you don't want to write OpenGL on your own, you're definitely going to benefit of Qt Quick stack. You're right to say that it's not probably going to take over the mobile development market, but its very architecture makes it very good to reach different target than the standard desktop application.
From your experience, how expensive is packaging together an application which uses PyQt, and particularly if you need to use the Qt WebKit, for example, since a renderer is in any way a big project with a lot of code.
Sorry, it's
with a lot of code. WebKit uses a lot of code, so generates a bigger executable.
Oh, yes. Yes, that's a factor that has to be kept into account, because actually if you're going to write a Hello World application and you package it all together and you build an installer out of it, it's going to be like 5 megabytes just for a simple window telling you Hello World. So that's a thing that you have to keep into account. Anyway, Qt is modular, so you can build a customized version of PyQt, of both Qt and PyQt, for instance, where if you don't want to use like the multimedia system or the WebKit system and you just limit yourself to the graphics UI module, you can have only that in your final executable if you want. Let's say anyway, it's like a big library anyway, because it does lots of things, even the graphics core of Qt, I mean the one where widgets are implemented, is large. So yes, for a small application you're paying a big fixed price, a big fixed initial price, but you leverage on it as soon as your application grows. So
okay, so I'm afraid we don't have any time more for questions.
Thank you.
So Thank you, Lorenzo.